Greetings, folks. Welcome back to the Jason Damico Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Simplecast, iHeart, and all those great platforms. And as always, we've got a very special guest on the show. The past 16 plus years, the Will McBride Group has performed their unique brand of original jazz-influenced rock/funk in all kinds of venues throughout North Carolina and beyond. Everything from small brew pubs to the biggest stages in the area. The music has earned them opener bookings for on-tour stops by ZZ Top, Styx, Eddie Money, Steve Miller Band, Dermot McClinton, and Aaron Neville, many others as well. And since 2009, they've released 2 full-length CDs, 1 EP and 2 singles, and will be releasing a new compilation of tunes called None the Worse for Wear in early 2021. The first single, Seascape, dropped on YouTube on New Year's Day. The second single is bound to drop on YouTube in February. Please welcome to the show my very good friend, Mr. Will McBride.
Hey, Jason, it's good to be on your show.
Good to have you. Good to have you. And the last time we were in the same place and time, it was at least 2 years ago, right?
It's about 2 years, I think. Yeah.
Fuquay. We had the show there, and that was a fun one. That was cool.
The grand opening of that beautiful venue that they did, and it was great. It was an honor to be asked to do it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Special thanks to Dory Staley. We'll have to get her on the show at some point.
Yeah, Dory's helped us a lot.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's terrific.
It's great to have you on, and you know, We've been in the Triangle circuit for a while, and I've never really learned about the early parts of your career and kind of your life story. So I'm excited to learn about it today. Let's start with your beginning stages. I mean, how did you really get into the scene as far as playing and singing?
So I'm originally from Atlanta, and actually, I grew up. Well, I'll give my age here by reference, but I grew up when Atlanta was the big deal for Southern rock. Atlanta Rhythm Section, Brothers, and all that stuff was happening in Atlanta. And I was a young kid and grew up in the area, but I knew I wanted to play music, and so with some help with some friends, I was able to get a decent musical instrument and taught myself some things. And I'm sure, like you, I got hooked as soon as I touched the guitar.
Right.
This is it. I knew as soon as I touched it, I knew it. So I kind of worked my way up and got into the local band, did local scene, did cover bands and that sort of thing. And then I got an opportunity to do a small tour with a fellow named St. Clair Pinckney. Now, most people don't know who that is by name, but everybody knows who James Brown is.
Right.
And St. Clair Pinckney was the elder statesman saxophone player in his horn section.
Wow!
If you look at the old videos, he's the guy with the gray streak in his hair. Anyway, so he was. It just so happens that while James Brown was in prison for indiscretions against his wife,
right,
which is a story entirely, St. Clair was left without a gig, so he put together a band that was going to feature his original material, and he was looking for a guitar player. And a friend of mine who was part of his band called me up and said, "Hey, they're looking for a guitar player. You want to do this summer tour?" And I said, "Absolutely, I want to do this summer tour." So I did that for several months, and that gave me what was instrumental about that is that although James Brown was a funk player and obviously heavily influenced St. Clair, St. Clair was more of a jazz guy, probably smooth jazz before there was such thing as smooth jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And so he hired this keyboard player. I'll never forget him. His name is Wallace Hartsfield. And Wallace, if you see this, contact me because I've totally lost track of him. But he influenced me greatly, taught me a lot about jazz voicings and how the guitar worked beyond major and minor rock chords and stuff like that. Just totally opened my eyes and set me on a path of jazz composition and jazz improvisation that really put me on the path that I'm still on. And so shortly after that, I moved to Wilmington which was how I got to North Carolina, and put together my own jazz group where I was doing a bunch of Grover Washington Jr. and Al Jarreau and David Sanborn. I had a saxophone player, stuff like that. And the point was that I did all that stuff, and my original music was in that vein at the time, and so it was a good platform for doing that. And so that got me seated in the jazz direction. And of course, if you're familiar with having played with jazz players, those guys, especially the rhythm sections of those guys, have so many chops, and they have so many different rhythm styles. It's only a matter of time before you find somebody who's on the funk edge of jazz, which I did. I found a guy like that, and that inspired me even more, and that kind of put me in the direction that I've gone in today. And shortly thereafter, I had a jazz band there called the Quick, which anybody who lived in Wilmington in the early 90s knows that band. But I only stayed there for 3 years, and then I moved up here to Raleigh and started on my way from there. So that's a brief hit.
Yeah, who were some of the major influences for you right before that time when you started touring?
Well, probably in the very beginning, I was into Jimmy Page, Ritchie Blackmore from Deep Purple, and then I became aware of a local guy named Roger Hurricane Wilson. Thank you for all you've done for me, Roger. Roger's has been my mentor for many, many, many years, and he and I we still keep in touch. He taught me guitar 45 years ago.
Wow!
But I did sound for him for a while, and he introduced me to a lot of the Southern rock icons in the Atlanta area. 38 Special, all the Van Zant brothers, Johnny, Ronnie, and Donnie Van Zant, all of them. I hung with them, and then of course Atlanta Rhythm Section. The Barry Bailey was my idol. I never got a chance to meet him, but went to several of his shows that Roger got me tickets to, and I just sat there mesmerized watching how fluid he was. And if you're not familiar with Barry Bailey from Atlanta Rhythm Section, you might know some of his, the hits that they had, but go listen to some of the deep cuts. What a great player he was, and he's still alive. And a lot of the voicings that he had were really sweet sounding and very, I'm going to say, and I'm not the first one to say this, Steely Dan-ish for Southern rock. They were kind of the Steely Dan of Southern rock, which is a mind-bending thought. But you listen to their stuff, it wasn't simple blues stuff. It was a lot of really nice color chords and stuff that I was hearing that I didn't know what it was yet. I didn't understand it until I learned more about jazz. But what a great player. So those were all real influential folks in my early years.
Yeah, for sure. The jazz rock relationship, I think the first time I started hearing that was with Steely Dan and Chicago, to a certain degree. I'm trying to think of, Billy Joel even a little bit.
Yeah.
Anybody
who was willing to go out there and put color, intervals in their chording and made it musical. Well, that's really it. I mean, that's how Steely Dan set themselves apart, is they were willing to do that and at the same time make their compositions accessible to the rock world, but just interesting to those of us who wanted more than just straight up major and minor chord voicings.
Right.
And that's, well, I mean, you listen to my music, you hear all the Steely, I'll admit it freely, Steely Dan's a big influence for me, clearly.
Yeah, it definitely adds another dimension, and then I could see the Jimmy Page influence for sure, because you mentioned him earlier. A lot of those Zeppelin tracks, even though they were blues in the Zeppelin 1, Zeppelin 2, his production was just unbelievable, and his what he was able to do for the chords that he knew, he used a wide variety of them. Yeah. Even though his library probably wasn't that of the Steely Dan players. There's some stuff going on there, you know.
Well, it was the early rock years, the early 70s, mid 70s. I mean, those guys were learning from the blues masters. You know,
Right.
Clapton will tell you that he learned from all the blues masters and all those guys. And and then they became the shoulders on which the next generation stood on. And so, of course, if you're going to learn from those folks, you want to take it one better. And so, you get a couple of guys out of NYU who know a lot of jazz stuff, and they're learning from the jazz masters, but they really dig the vibe and the energy of the rock. Well, it was only a matter of time before somebody merged those together, and then you add to it the clever, sarcastic, deep double entendre meaning of the lyrics, and you have Steely Dan.
Right. And I mean, the Beatles as well, the chords and the writing it's just unbelievable what they were able to do.
You could just pour over it for forever, I think, and just get something new every time.
Yeah, for sure. What they were able to do in 15 seconds, 30 seconds, drive my car, or, you take almost any Beatles song if it's not on the White Album, because that was a whole other thing, but the amount of the musical value you're getting in 2.5 minutes, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. And think about it, 4 tracks. They only recorded all in 4-track stuff. The first overdubs that George Martin, that were done, basically George Martin pioneered that.
Right.
And so they had to do a lot of ping-ponging, and you guys who record know what that is, but basically you have to put a lot of tracks into 4 tracks. And so you have to mix them down to 2, and then add another one, and mix it down and add another one. And, that there's a great deal of creativity in the Beatles stuff, not just from John Paul, George, and Ringo, but from George Martin.
It gives it that sound too. When you listen to those vocals, they're hot, man. It's because they hit tape like 5 times before the master.
Yeah. You're right.
Very cool. I want to also talk about creative process for you as an artist and as a writer. And it seems like you pretty much self-produce in the studio from what I've heard. I don't know if that's
I've done it both ways.
Okay. Yeah, just curious to see how it's progressed over the years, what you're doing these days as well.
Well, I started producing myself, and I found that my first recordings sounded sort of not a whole lot of depth from my critique after the fact. I mean, the playing was there, and the songs were good, but it just didn't have the excitement. And so I was like, I need to learn to produce. And so I hunted down who I thought was the best producer in this town, and that's John Custer.
Yep.
And I hunted him down, and I said, I want you to produce me. He says, really? What do you want? I don't remember the exact words, but the conversation went something like, well, what sound are you going for? Because, he did Cry of Love and Dag, and then he did Corrosion of Conformity. Sorry about that. And those are vastly different recording artists. And now he's doing Big Something, which is another vastly different project. But all that stuff is in him. Well, what I heard from him that I really dug was Dag.
Oh,
Dag,
yeah.
Dag was, pardon the expression, white boy funk. And I totally dig that. So I was like, I like the fact that, the rhythm is infectious, but the chording structure and the structure of the song is still interesting. It's not just all about beat. There is structure to it, and there's some inspirational performance in that, and that's what I want. And he was like, okay, got it. So once I told him what direction we were going in, and I had the players to do it, my second CD, the 3-play CD, the one you and I talked, that has the song we talked about before we went on the air.
Yeah.
That one was the first one I did with Custer, and I think he did exactly what I asked him to do, which was add depth, add dimension, add, still using 3 players, because we only had 3 players in the band, still use those and get different sounds and make it thicker. And he did. And to me, I mean, I love the production of it. It's wonderful. Custer's, he's a genius. He really is at what he does. He's a genius. And so I took that and I learned from it, and I said, let me produce the next one myself, because I have learned some things and I know kind of what I want to do, and he's opened my eyes a bit. So the 2014 CD, All In, I did that one myself with, well, I shouldn't say that. That's not true. I used John Plymel as the engineer and had him associate produce it, but I was kind of driving the determination of how the final product would sound, which is not what I did with Custer. I said, you do it. Tell me what it is we're going to do. And you know what we're trying to go for, and you do it. So it was two different ways of doing it. And then after that one, which I really liked, I liked All In. All In turned out the way I hoped it would. And it's got some good songs on it. And those songs have gotten a lot of traction on Spotify and the streaming services, Funk Side and a song called, I can't remember. I can't. The name is gone passing right now. Tell Me I'm Wrong is the other song. And both of those got a lot of traction, a lot of critical, positive reviews. And so I was pleased with that. And then in 2018, I had these other two songs that I wanted to do as singles, because I kind of got the word that, singles are really what we want to do here. So I had two singles I wanted to do. So I went back to Custer and I said, can you produce these for me? And let's go a little further with it. Let's go in a bit more of a different direction. Decided to use some different musicians, studio cats, and they were great. I mean, Nick Baglio and Darian Alexander, the two guys I used on rhythm section, they were great. And then a guy that I've had on several recordings, Dr. Michael Peltz Sherman, did the keyboards on it. And those two songs turned out great, but they were a project that was produced by an outside producer, again, John Custer. And then this later CD, I had a different direction, and I decided I wanted to self-produce again. So None the Worse for Wear, the one that's coming out later this month on the 20th of February, that one I'm producing myself with a little help from the drummer that's on this track. Chris Connolly is doing some help on the arrangement parts, but I've done all the production part. So the point in all that is that I've tried lots of different things, and each of them have taught me things. They have yielded good results. You've done a lot of different recordings, and each one you can't go into it saying, I'm just going to retrace the tracks that I've already done on the previous recording. You can't do that. You're just not going to be successful if you do that. Yeah. Each recording has its own direction. It's a living, breathing project, if you will. That's the way I look at it. And it needs to go the way it wants to go.
They have a mind of their own, don't they?
They do. I'm sure you've gone back after you do a recording and it's finished and you produce it and you come out with the CD and you go, hey, let me go back and listen to the original demo.
It's not done until it's done.
Well,
and that can mean a variety of things.
Yeah, you realize how much it grew and how much room it had to grow.
Right.
Between the time you conceived of the first demo and the finished product. It's really it's an inspiring thing to go through when you watch that project of yours mature, right? I mean, you've experienced it.
Oh yeah.
It's just so much fun. And so I'm like a little kid in a candy shop when we do this.
We had Custer on in 2019. He was one of the first, I think he was probably like one of the first 10 episodes. And it was really cool getting to sit down for about, his was like 2.5, 3 hours. It was ridiculously long. Yeah. Cause I mean, we just kept talking about all the bands that you mentioned, and it is overwhelming. His career. I'm a big fan as well. So
have you worked with him? Have you done anything with him?
No, I had the honor of accepting the Rock Mail Carolina Music Award in 2015 from him. It's like, I was at 21 years old. I was melting in my. It was like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. I mean, Custer's giving me this trophy. It was nuts. So that was amazing. I would love to. I mean, we talk. back in the day when I was interning at Manifold with Ian Schreier, I was under Ian's wing. I reached out to Custer. I was in New York before I started that internship down here. I was in New York and I gave him a call and we were talking a little bit. The schedules never really lined up. I wanted to shadow under him, but I was 600 miles away and he was down here. Then I think he was in Florida for a little bit with a girlfriend at the time. So things just really didn't, schedule wise add up. But I'd love to do something with him at some point for sure.
In my mind, he's a creative genius.
Oh yeah.
Watching him work, he's unlike anybody I've ever worked with before. And I don't want it to sound bad. It's not bad. He's has his way, but he definitely has his way, and it's unique, and it's not like anybody else. But
well, usually the best are like that.
Yeah, he's definitely the mad scientist kind of guy.
I can relate. I'm sure it's an experience.
I'm a big fan of him.
Me too.
His work speaks for itself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of sounds, Seascape, we were talking about that just a little bit before we were on, and I love the sound of that. It's great. Music video is awesome too. I'll tell you this, like I love when, and it doesn't have to always be like this with art, but I love it when a title really sounds like the piece. It really feels like you're there. Even if you take the visuals out of the music video, it really sounds like you're there at the sea. I really
appreciate that because that's exactly what I was trying to convey.
That's exactly cool. It. It's very, very cool. And obviously the music video enhances it and the cool like green screen stuff. And it's not like it really came out well. It was very, very cool the way it was done.
Yeah, thank you. The Tom Sylvester is the videographer there, and he gets the credit for. I basically told him what I wanted to accomplish with this, and I told him the story behind it. I wrote this when I was in Wilmington back in the early '90s as the original song.
Oh, wow, goes way back then.
It's long to mature, but I said this is all about the experience of being at the ocean and that vibe that you get when you're out there on the sand and you're witnessing the power and the majesty, but also the soothing effect and how that they juxtapose against each other. They take turns inspiring you, the power of the waves, and then it withdraws and it gets kind of soft and all that stuff. It's like, I want to see if I can paint that picture with music. And what's funny about the song is, well, thanks.
I think so.
Really
it's great.
What's really amazing about that song to me is that, well, as a writer, I don't know how many songs you've thrown away, but I've thrown away a lot. And the ones that stick with you, the ones that pass the test, the ones that, you still remember 2 days after you stop playing them because they really connected with you. Well, this one sticks with me every time I go to the ocean. I hear this melody every time. Every time. It's just remarkable. And so I was like, I must record this and let others feel this the way I feel it. This song is really more that way than any other song I've ever written or composed, if you will, because it really conveys an image, a visual. And it's the first time I've ever accomplished that. I may never accomplish such a thing again. So that's really the power of that particular tune. It makes me proud of that one because it does that.
For sure.
And you saying that it reinforces that you get it too. And that's really nice. I appreciate it.
It's rare when it happens, and it's really rare when it happens to such a powerful degree. Because I the first time I heard it was a few weeks ago when you sent me the materials, and then before we went live, I listened to it again, and it's like it hit me just as much as it did the first time.
That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Because, you know, I mean, you have your own, everybody has their own perspective of things. And I don't know what other people see in it. I just know what I see in it. And I hope that others see that, but, you know, you just don't know. And hearing you say that tells me that it actually did kind of hit the mark in a way that I hoped it would. And I got to give, I really need to give credit to Chris Connolly, the guy that did the drums for me. He's a longtime collaborator of mine, a good friend of mine, and a phenomenal drummer. But he also, I told him I thought in the beginning I was going to like put some ocean tracks behind it and kind of enhance it. And he said, no, you don't really need to do that. If you just let me do the cymbal work, that will make that happen, especially on the low dynamic parts, then it'll all work. And darn if he didn't go do it. I mean, he just went and did it. Now, next time you listen to it, go listen for that. When it drops down between the verses, listen to the cymbal work that he did in there. It's almost like you can feel the water hitting you. You can feel the waves rushing toward you. It's just remarkable. I told him what I wanted, and he accomplished it, and it hit the mark.
Did you write it at Wrightsville?
I did. I wrote the basic part of it at Wrightsville
That's cool. That's cool.
There's a bridge in the middle of it that I wrote later, but the original melody part I wrote when I was at Wrightsville Beach.
Yeah, I love Wrightsville.
It's just that's great.
It's got a vibe to it. I mean, it's not anything like well, maybe it is. Maybe it is more than, you know, just some Carolina beach. I've been there many times, and every time is a great time there.
I used to live about 3 miles from Wrightsville Beach, so we'd go down there in the off season, which is in March and in October after the tourists are gone, and really that's when you kind of connect with the ocean. You can walk the beach alone.
Yep.
You can go north to Shell Island and it's just you and the waves and the dunes and the wind and, you know, and the gulls and that's about it. And you really get that vibe, you know?
Yeah. I miss it right now, actually. And I'm a winter guy. I really am. I love the cold, but I love the beach just as much because I don't have to wear any clothes. You know, so if you sweat, it doesn't really matter.
That's right. Yeah. It's really nice.
Well, let's talk a little bit about actually the band and the group in general, as far as the players. And I'm not sure how many times you've had rearrangements of lineup, but who's currently with the group, and, you know, just kind of let's talk a little bit about the band, because the last time I saw the band, it's fantastic. The time I saw the band before that, fantastic. So we'd love to talk about it.
There have been many players in the band. I run my band. I don't want to get into this too much, but I run my band as it's my band, and we do things the way I want to do them.
Yeah, you and I both. So there's no shame in it.
So basically, you know,
there's dozens of people out there who, you know, have certain thoughts towards me.
That's right.
That's okay.
Well, you know, you want it the way you have the vision, and you want it the way you want it. And the key to making that successful is making that clear up front. And you tell people, this is what I'm going for. This is what I'm doing. If you want to do it, be a part of it. If you don't want to do it, then this is not the right situation for you. No shame, you know, and, you know, we can part company amicably and it's all good, you know. And I would say, I mean, I've had 22 drummers in this band, for example, and I would say 19 of them, I still have a very good relationship. And you know, anytime you get that many people, you're not going to agree on things. It's just not going to happen. But the point being that, you know, they've all the ones that have all left for various reasons, but most of them has been basically that this situation doesn't work for them anymore. They want to achieve something different. They want to go a different direction, whatever. All those things work. And so the point of that is that, yes, I've had many people in the band, and they've all left their mark, large or small, on the band and helped me grow, helped the band grow. But that's what's really made this happen. You know, has generated the legacy. I'm going to use the word legacy because in my mind it is, and maybe not to other people, but it's generated that whole legacy of the band. Now, to answer your question, who's the lineup today? Well, we're not playing live today,
right?
Because I decided not to. When I stopped playing live, to really find players, Jeff Abate was playing drums for me, and Michael Reese was playing bass for me, and we all kind of decided that the COVID thing was, at least for the near term, unsurmountable. So we decided we're going to let it lie for a while. And that worked really well from my perspective of, gosh, I'm really tired of beating the bushes for 60 shows a year while I also have a full-time job during the day. I just needed the break, and here was a good excuse to have a break. So I just stopped the band.
Why not? Yeah.
It's a good time to, you take
a lot of other people were doing it. It's impossible to, the venues are closed. So, yeah.
Right. So in the meantime, Chris Connolly, the drummer I mentioned earlier, is a longtime co-conspirator of mine. He was the drummer on my 2009 CD Trifecta. We happened to get in touch with each other and talk about what's going on. What are you doing? What am I doing? Et cetera, et cetera. And I said, well, I'm putting my band on hiatus. Looking for something else to kind of, keep the chops up and create. And he said, well, I'm playing with these two other guys, and we're creating stuff, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of improvisation. And I said, well, that sounds really good. So I went and checked out what they were doing. And at that point, I told them that I had 4 songs in the can that were completely written and structured and ready to take into the studio. And he was interested in doing that. And he said, my guy, the 2 guys he was playing with, we're maybe interested in as well. So long story short, we chatted about it, and we decided we're going to do some stuff in his group. It's basically an organ trio with a guitar player added, which is me. And at the same time, they were going to go in the studio with me and be my backing band for this new material, which they didn't just play what I told them to. They created a lot of the parts in there, of their own parts. I gave them the structure. And so that part really inspired me, that they were being creative and making the songs better. And so I would say right at this moment, those are the guys that are the studio band. They are the ones you hear on the new recording, None the Worse for Wear. They're the ones that played on Seascape, the ones that are on the new video that came out a week and a half ago called Good Enough. And they are the players on this. Now, I tell you all that to say, when the CD comes out and the music is out there and COVID finally leaves and gives us a break, well, I don't know who's going to be the quote touring band, performing band. I don't know. It depends on, I've talked with all the players involved, and we just have to see. Yeah.
Schedule permitting.
I do have some shows booked in the summer for the Will McBride Group. We have not, there are no musicians that have yet begun working together to craft that show. So, we just haven't started yet. But clearly in that show, the new music will be featured. The older stuff, the singles that I did in 2018, the stuff in 2014 from the All In CD, et cetera, those would also be a part of the show. I envision the new show will have more original material. I want to try to use more original compositions and fewer cover tunes, although there's half a dozen cover tunes that anybody who has been coming to our shows expects to hear.
And they're good. They are really good.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Some of the Steely Dan material, great stuff.
So yeah, I wish I had written that stuff. But yeah, that's really the status of it right now. Since we're not playing live yet, I haven't committed to how the band will be structured. But I do have shows in the summer, so I'll promote those a little later. I'm not going to mention the dates yet, but They're coming in the summer, so look out.
Sure, yeah. The new compilation, we were talking about this a little bit before. You're thinking about releasing singles at first with the music video support, and then compiling them into an album. So what could the fans and listeners, new listeners out there, expect for the timeline?
Well, right now, the plan right now is to release a new song the first Saturday every month in
Okay.
2021. Now, since we're already in February at the time of this recording, the first song, Seascape, what we talked about earlier, it came out January 1st.
Mm-hmm.
The second song, Good Enough, has come out on February 6th. The plan is to release a video for the third song. It's called No for an Answer, and it comes out the first Saturday in March. And then the final song of the 4-song compilation is called Cue to Call, and it comes out April 3rd, whatever that Saturday is. I don't know. It's whatever that first Saturday in April is. And the plan is, and as I mentioned to you earlier, I find that, well, I think we both agree on this. Singles are important nowadays because short attention spans, short time on any kind of radio airplay, any kind of charting, Spotify, Billboard, whatever, all that stuff is very short. It's meteoric, if you will. So I wanted to give each song a chance to shine on its own and do whatever it is it can do. Maybe it'll flop, I don't know, but I want to give it a chance to do whatever it's going to do, not in the shadow of another song. And so that plan made me decide that each one's going to be released as a single. I'm going to release the actual compilation in the middle of all that. So that turns out to be February 20th, which maybe at the time of the airing of this show, maybe right before or just shortly after this show comes out. But the point is that there'll be 2 videos. There are 2 videos already released before that, and then the CD, and then 2 videos afterwards. Now, I will mention that it's a 4-song compilation, but when the physical CD is put out or comes out, which I'm in production with now, there'll be 2 bonus songs on there, and the 2 bonus songs are the 2 singles that I released on their own in 2018. So they'll be part of this as well. So if you buy the CD, there's 6 songs on it. And so that was kind of an idea to make it a bonus for, buying the actual CD. Give the person who wants to own a collection of our songs, have it on an album. So that's the plan. Whether it's a good plan or not, it's just the plan.
It makes sense. I mean, especially in this day and age with the visuals so strong.
Yeah.
It seems, at least on my side, a majority of what I'm doing are visual pieces of content.
Yeah. You do a lot of video stuff, and that's really, I think, part of seeing that from you and from other artists convinced me that, that's a really good medium for getting the songs in front of people. I mean, I stopped and listened to your songs because of the video. So I thought, well, if that's doing that to me, it's doing it to a lot of other people. I know you have a big following, so I'm sure it's doing it to a lot of others. And the thought was, well, then that's the right way to do it.
It's just that screen time. People are addicted to the phones. I hate to admit it. I wish it was different. I really do. I don't. I'm more of an old soul person myself, despite being a 90s kid. I was just at the crest of technology really becoming overwhelming now, where it seems like the world, if big tech went down, the whole world would
stop.
would essentially go down with it, except for the people that recollect how to get around without a map. And I mean, banking is all tied electronically, and it's even electronic statements now. For our business, we still have paper statements. Like, I still like having things old school and somewhat analog, but it's just getting to a point now where I don't know how much more time we had. Big picture, not to get too far down a tangent. I don't know how much more time we have left until things are completely web 2.0, 3.0. You know, your refrigerator's already ordering the next item that it needs without you knowing it. So it's just, you know, where's it going to stop? And the same thing for the music industry. We've seen huge disruption, and from a federal standpoint, as artists, it's been very tough to have that protection. You know, with the streaming, and just a lot of funds have been lost due to that. So the video aspect has really been a huge merging. I think 5 or 10 times more relevant than MTV in this day and age. It's just overwhelming how important it is.
Well, it's quite important. I don't know that I share your opinion as far as the magnitude of it versus MTV, because I remember how monumental it was to be able to see the artists that we only listen to without seeing.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're on television. Holy cow, I was just addicted.
Well,
so,
in terms of, you're right.
I get your point.
You're right. I guess in terms of content creation, because they would make Guns N' Roses would put out whatever, November Rain, great music video, or whatever music video, any of these bands back then put out a great music video that sustains them for months.
Yeah.
Now you put something out, you're lucky if it sustains you for 3 hours.
yeah. Maybe if it's great, it sustains you for a week.
Yeah. You know, TikTok, I mean, TikTok's just, that's a whole, now we're talking about 3, 10, 15 seconds, and it's gone. I mean, it's there. You can archive it. It goes viral. That's great. But there's a million other videos going viral right now.
It's meteoric. I'll use that term.
That's a good, I haven't heard that word in a while. I'm gonna start using that one again.
Because it just shoots up instantly and falls instantly, and you're done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It really is. Nowadays, the time window has shortened so much that, you know, you get your brief moment, and that moment's getting more brief with time.
Well, and think about it with MTV. Yeah, you're right. Here's another angle to what you said, and what I can allude to. They were really the only game in town.
They were.
Right. So now you got all these social platforms. You got YouTube. MTV's turned into reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's constantly evolving. It's constantly evolving.
For sure.
And you know, as well as I do as a musician, we're still out there trying to do what it was we were doing before, create music. That's really not changed.
Right.
But the target, or better to say, the environment that we're doing it in, is what's changing. And so now we have to think about, okay, how's the best way to reach a target audience? And now I don't have much time to do it, because I have to reach them now, and then let it do what it's going to do, and then it's done. And you better think of something else, because you're done. You know, because you got to have another song or something.
Yeah, and then there comes the other aspects of it, of network and collaborations and all these other you know, intricacies and strategies that can at times make or break releases, and that's a whole other road to go down. But yeah. Well, and speaking of network and all of that, you've got some pretty hefty names associated with the group opening up for, you know, ZZ Top, Styx, Eddie Money. There's got to be some cool recollections of some of those acts.
I mean, I think when I first started thinking that this might be possible, that's what I wanted to do, I didn't know how to do it, you know, and you may or may not have seen this. I put out a video series about my experiences. It's not a how-to. It's basically just says, here's what I experienced when I was trying to reach the goals. And the goals that I set for the band were, I would really like to get exposure to a large audience, and I like performing live, and I really want to perform for a large band's audience, and in the same environment of the bands that I admire. Well, so in doing that, basically the memory was, I'm sorry, I'm about to get off track. So my thought process was, I need to be ready for such an opportunity when it arrives.
Right.
And when I do that, well, the best thing that I could think of to do that is to have compelling original material. That was my goal, was to do that. Now, when you set that goal, you don't know when or if or what the opportunity is going to be that presents itself. But whenever that happens, whatever it is, if you're not ready for it, it's gone. You missed it.
Right.
So my thought was, let me get ready first. Let me get a decent recording of compelling original material and then see what happens. Well, as it turns out, about less than a year after I had released the first CD from the band, I got the opportunity through another member in the band who had a connection that I couldn't predict, but it had just worked out that way, to open for Styx, which was the first real major touring act that I opened for,
right.
the band for. And, as it turns out, there were 1,900 people out there, and they were there at Coca Booth Amphitheater waiting. There weren't 15 televisions around for other people for other distractions for people to look at. It was just
right.
there to see the music, and that's what I wanted. So, I get the opportunity to go out there and perform 4 or 5 of my original materials in front of these people who are doing nothing but listening to what I'm doing. Well, that's perfect. So the biggest memory I got out of that, well, 2 biggest memories I got out of that was, one, stepping out on that stage in front of all those people who are listening, who are interested in what we're playing. Because, when you play at sports bars, they're not. They're interested in a lot of other things. The band is just one of those things, maybe.
Right.
So you step out there and you play your heart out. You do the things that you've prepared to do with the material that you've prepared, that you've spent this time getting ready for. And then you step off that stage, and you just, the rush that happens, basically, hey, I just did that. That was just really fun. And then to compound it with the fact that Styx, the guys from Styx, were just amazingly gracious. They greeted us when we came off stage. They watched our set. They had nothing but good things to say. They spent time with us between sets. That just made us feel like we belonged.
That's cool.
Which I know I'm not in their league, but they made us, for that one night, feel like I belonged, which was, that was just, I knew when I got done, I was like, there's nobody here tonight that had more fun than I did. Nobody. Not a chance.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And that's something I'll never forget, because, that's really, as a musician, a creator of music, I can't think of a higher mountain than that. It just isn't that I can think of.
Yeah, for sure.
So, those are the kind of things, opening for ZZ Top was, I played at DPAC. DPAC is an amazing venue with just top of the line, everything.
Incredible.
And they treat you like you're somebody, and you have your own dressing room, and it's just, you step out on the stage where all ZZ Top stuff is, and you're standing in front of it. You look back, and they have all their video screen behind you, and all their amps, and Frank Beard's giant custom painted drum kit is right behind you. And, you step out on the stage when it's your time, and in that night, ZZ Top almost sold the place out. The only thing they didn't sell was the back 3 rows of the third balcony. So there's a room full. Again, they're there to hear you, and you're there to get them ready for the next band. And when they respond to what you're doing, it's just remarkable. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, that's great. That's so cool.
I know you've experienced some of that, so but the people maybe that are listening to this, maybe they don't know that. So it's just for a music. I'll tell all you guys, for a musician to be able to play your original material in front of an enthusiastic audience that don't know your material, but they respond. They're just not much better.
Nope. That's awesome. No, that's
You know,
cool. No, I'm relishing in it because it's been, at this point, we're all like, not from an ego standpoint, but just from an industry standpoint, we're just starved from playing live.
yes,
You
we're
know what I
starved.
mean? Like I
Yeah.
miss it.
Yes, absolutely.
I've actually got dates out through to September. They just kind of fell in our lap.
That's awesome.
They're all solo because of, the nature of things right now. And the
Sure.
venues are the major venues are closed still, but little pubs here and there. But what a completely what a completely different mindset. It's not it. You gotta still maintain and cover your expenses and stay wise. But yeah, book me out, man. Book me out.
Yep.
Even though I've got all these other things going on, book me out because
and you know that there's so much pent up desire from the musicians and pent up demand from the spectators that want to see the shows. And
yeah,
when the gates finally open, it's going to be this flood like we've never
it's going to be
seen.
a renaissance. And I'll tell you, unfortunately, and maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't. I think unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people that left the industry that just couldn't they couldn't take the pressure. They for what they could not physically, financially, whatever,
Could mentally. Yeah, there's a lot of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, you heard the Thad Cockrell story, right? The whole where he was about to quit, and he was a guy from North Carolina, and he was about to quit. He was about to tell his manager, "I'm done. I'm going to another career. I can't do this anymore." He's in Nashville, and his manager said, "Well, before you do that, I just got a call from Jimmy Fallon's people, and they want you to play on the Tonight Show." And the reason they got that call is because Jimmy Fallon heard his song in a hardware store and did the Shazam thing from Apple Music and said, "Who is that guy? I love that song." And that's how they found him. And he played Roots, obviously remotely, but he played with the Roots. And his song went from utter obscurity to #1 on the iTunes chart the next day. That's how fast. That's the meteoric thing I was telling you about.
Yeah. Oh, that just gave me chills.
Yeah.
It really did.
When he got the call, I saw the interview. When he got the call, he said he cried for about 5 solid minutes, just uncontrollable. It's just because all the years he had spent as a journeyman, playing in pubs and whatever, to obscurity, and then suddenly to get this boost. Well, he won the lottery, basically. He won the lottery.
Yeah, but he was still in it.
But he was still in it.
And that's the thing, like that John, I always go back, whenever I'm discouraged, I always go back to that, or the higher self of me will always drag up that John Lennon quote of, so many people, they just never experience the real fruits of their labor in this industry because they give up too early.
Up too soon. That's right. That's right. And I guess I feel fortunate that I haven't really felt that. For me personally, I have always been able to, when I get discouraged, and it happens, everybody does. If they're telling you they don't, they're lying.
Right.
But you get discouraged, I look inward, and I look to what made me do this to start with. What is it? What is it that inspired me? And what inspired me was not the accolades, not the admiration. None of that mattered. What mattered to me in the very beginning that got me started was how music spoke to my soul. It's just between me and the music. That's it.
Yeah.
And I look at that and go, okay, it's depressing. My song didn't do very well, or we lost that gig, or I lost a band member, or any of those things.
Yeah.
What got me into this? The music spoke to my soul, and I just go back to that. So, and I use that in my endeavors again and again. If you're, you've been at it where you're at the most disappointing gig you've played in forever, and nobody's listening, and I can't get the tone I want, or somebody's being a jerk, or whatever. it's the woman at the end of the bar is screaming for George Thorogood and has been for the last 45 minutes and won't shut up, even though I've told her I don't want to play that. I don't do that. And you think, this is the bottom. And I just go, no, this is not the bottom. The music is what moved me to start with. Let's just look inward.
Right.
To
Great
me,
advice.
that helps me.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
I hope,
and it's applicable to anybody.
I think it is.
I think it is. Yeah, for sure.
You're honest with yourself. We all did it for that reason. It isn't if you've been in it for any length of time, it's not about the sex, drugs, and rock and roll that is the legend of music. It's not. It's about music moves you. If the music doesn't move you, then you're not here. You really have probably already checked out.
Right. It makes you. I mean, it makes you question your own sanity at times. The things you do for the music, like because I know, because you're the real deal. You've put in the time. You've been doing it for decades, and I mean, there's just those nights where you're like, why? Like, why?
Why am I doing this? That's right.
and
Yes.
somehow you prevail, and you look back and you realize it's just because you love it.
It is. There's no other
passion. The passion prevails, I think, every time, and it chooses you. It's almost like music chose me. I didn't choose it.
I think that's true, because music moves. People you've dealt with. Some people, music moves them in the listening aspect. They don't feel inspired to make it. They just didn't feel inspired to listen to it. And those are the people that need those people. But then there's those of us that feel inspired to make music, because you hear it inside of you. Which sounds so, when those words come out of my mouth, they sound almost ridiculous, but it's a fact.
It's true.
You hear it in there. I hear it.
It's true.
But then there's other people who are neither moved by music nor are they inspired to make it. So that tells you right away that different things move different people. And, you just have to, I think one of the things you have to do in life in general, boy, I sound all philosophical here, but you really have to find what moves you, be it music or sports or whatever it is. You have a limited time on this planet, and you really need to make your life enriched enough to make you want to do it, but to live for all this time, you got to find what moves you. And some people spend all their life chasing it. Other people know right out of the gate. Well, I found out when I was 17, but that's pretty early. And from my perspective now, that's pretty early. From other people say, well, how long have you been playing guitar? Well, I didn't start until 17. Oh, you were a late starter. Yes, I was a late starter, but I've been doing it a long time now. So but it is, I knew it when I found it. I knew it.
Yeah.
I just knew it.
Yeah. Definitely.
And you're probably the same, I imagine, because all your endeavors, I follow you a lot, and the things you do is I can tell you do it because it's what moves you.
Yeah, I got bit at about 4 or 5. It was,
wow.
And even before that. But I mean, by the time, the earliest recollections I have of my life, I always remember at 4 or 5. Even if I didn't know what I was doing now, I didn't know what music production was, or what it meant to practice an instrument or sing or whatever. I just always saw myself on stage, and so to me, it's always been, it can turn into a little bit of a psychological trip, because you ask yourself, well, did I give myself a chance with other areas?
Right. Well, you're always going to question that.
And but then you kind of get smacked with the realization of, well, you would have chose something else. If the sound logical perspective here is, you would have chose something else, or you would have given up on it if it really wasn't your true love. And I mean, especially at now being in this for over 20 years, in the acting and the music and all of it, since I was in my child years, it's like too far in.
But when you get up in the morning, you realize you want to do it again.
Oh yeah, it's a nut house.
That's a strong signal. Says I'm going the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I had a funny occurrence where I'll say this because I think it's hilarious. So a buddy of mine just got a BMW. He got it used, like a 2014. So whatever, 7-8 years old, and it's like, oh man, nice BMW, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's great. You want to know what I got? Let me show you. So he showed me all the creature features and everything. He's a mechanic, so he's obviously into the scene and brilliant mind, brilliant mechanic. We've been best friends for a long time, and it's like, man, what are you paying per month on this thing? It's a nice car. He's like, I don't know, 214, 220. Like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah. I was like, 13.5 or 1400 out the door. We threw like $3,000 on it. And I was like, so it was weird because at 27, my entire life has been putting $100,000 plus into gear, building a business, building a brand.
Yeah.
At 27 years, I mean, getting a touring vehicle and making that happen. And at 27 years old, I'm going, wait, I could actually go buy like a nice BMW. The thought never even, I mean, I'm still having the realization now, a week later after this incident. It's like the thought never occurred to me that, oh yeah, like if I just put down what I would put down to go get an American Telecaster.
Right.
And throw $200 out. I mean, yeah. So it's just, and those are the moments, Will, where I'm like, am I sane? You know what I mean? It's like, so anyway, I thought I'd share that with you because it's relatively fresh for me, and I find it hilarious. It's like, man, the thought never crossed my mind that I could just go get a nice personal car if I wanted to.
Right. The choices you make there are, indicative of the direction you're going, or the fact that you don't have a direction, one of the two. But that's a perfect example of, I make that choice when I have, if I have money to spend, what do I think of? Well, that guy you were talking about thought of, I really need to get a nice car. But Jason, on the other hand, thinks, no, I need to invest it in what I'm doing in my future and in this business. I'm still, I'm building. Well, that's two different mindsets. It's very indicative of
it was funny. But see, these are the things in life I get a kick out of. Those moments where they just kind of it's like, it's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Future plans for you. So we've got the new music. We've got some dates coming up in the summer. Beyond that, a lot of this is in general unpredictable. Life is unpredictable, but
yeah, who can say?
yeah, especially after this. It's like, I don't even know why I ask this question to people anymore after the pandemic. It's like, yeah, what are future plans? I have no idea.
Well, I think we're going to struggle. My personal opinion, I think we're going to struggle doing much in the way of live music this year. I really just think so.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, at full capacity, we're not going to see it until at least 2022.
Let's say tomorrow they say, okay, the vaccine is showing promise, and we have 20% of the population vaccinated, and the numbers are going down. Is everybody just going to fling off their mask and go, oh, woohoo, let's go to a concert? I don't think so.
You and I probably, but
well, I don't know. There's too many people who will be cautious and wary.
Right.
I mean, think about this, and this is one way of looking at it. And we can get off the pandemic subject, but it's just too pervasive to not touch it.
But it's so relevant. Unfortunately, it is.
I mean, I remember when SARS hit in Taiwan and China back in whenever it was, early 2000. It might have been 2000. It might have been slightly before. I don't remember exactly. But the point being is that people in Taiwan, they still wear the masks.
Wow.
20 years later, they still wear them.
Wow.
And I visited over there. Well, I visited over there it's probably been 12 years ago now.
I mean, does everybody do it, or is it, you got to see some people?
Pretty pervasive.
Wow.
And so now you got to say, are we forever changed? Are we ever going to go back to a concert venue that has 2,700 seats like DPAC? And will some artist come in and sell the whole place out? And will all those people sit in their seats with no mask? Not in the foreseeable future. I don't think so.
Definitely not within next year or two.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I think we have a long route in that, and in that way, I think the big marker in this is, when will the major touring acts decide it's worth it? Let's go tour.
Right.
They're not going to do that if they know they're going to come in and only be able to sell a maximum of 50% of a venue. They're just not. That's not a financially feasible thing for the artist or the promoter.
Yeah, anybody involved on the hierarchy.
Live Nation's not going to do that.
No.
They're not going to make any money.
No.
So that says the touring acts are not coming for the next 12 months. My prediction. I don't know anything more than anybody else does, but that's my thought. So then that causes the venues more pain, and I don't know. It doesn't. To me, it doesn't look great for those venues. I don't know how long the owner sits on that and pays the rent or endures the mortgage or whatever it is they got to do, the upkeep. I don't know how long they do that. So I think we're forever changed. And the only thing we can really hope for is that sometime after that, some good news that maybe manifests in herd immunity or something that says it's safe to go outside without a mask anymore is really what we have to hear.
Yeah.
And then it takes time for the majority of people to believe that.
Right. Well, and I'm concerned. I'm definitely concerned about the younger kids, the elementary school and those. It's just like could you imagine going through this at 6, 7 years old and very confusing?
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. Nor can I envision a high schooler who is, let's say, a sophomore or junior in high school, whose entire high school experience is going to be completely consumed by, I can't go to prom, I can't go to football games, I can't go to basketball games, I can't go to dances, I can't go to any social gatherings, and when I get my diploma, they're going to have to mail it to me because I can't walk through the ceremony. That's just, it's awful.
Again, I'm getting chills, man. We're getting chills a couple of times in this conversation because right. I got my business degree online through William Peace in Raleigh. They were great. They really helped me thrive and have a very positive college experience, completely remote. I started it in 2013, finished around 2019 with, all the business stuff going on while getting a business degree. So that was a lot. But, coming out of that, I walked summer of 2019 and there was no such thing as COVID.
No such thing. It's
6 months later. So I was literally the tail end, tail end of normality. And, talking about it now, you kind of take these things for granted because I wasn't on campus. I mean, I didn't, if they were going to mail me the thing, if I was out on tour, yeah, sure, mail me the thing. Like I could care less, right. But it just so happened that I was there and my parents, it seemed like the right thing to do. There were a couple of people that really wanted to come out and support. And
it's a big deal for your support people too. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Not just you.
Yeah. And it's, thinking about it now, I'm blessed. I had a normal graduation, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
who knew this would come? Nobody did.
No.
Nobody saw it.
No. I mean, subconsciously, sure, because of media and, some films, and you hear about Walking Dead's a really extremist point of view, but you see it, and you hear about these things, but who knows? Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of hopeful that I've never heard anybody say this, but I'm kind of hopeful that recorded music, well, you don't remember this, but back in the 60s and 70s, concerts were rarities. No, they were infrequent. Let's put it that way. They were just constantly touring groups coming through. And, music was more of an audio thing. There really wasn't a lot of visual for bands.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result of that, they sold a lot of records because that was really the only way to connect with the artist, and the radio. And I realized that Spotify has changed the radio thing. And I'll mention as a side note that one of my songs coming out mentions that and covers that subject. I'll leave it at that. You'll have to wait for that one, but it covers that. A little commentary on it. But the point being is that that's the way it was, and we all survived, and we connected with those artists because we would buy their recording, and we would read the liner notes, and we'd pour over the pictures so we could get to know the artists. And I realized you do that on YouTube now. But the point is that I think it may manifest, hopefully, in the consumer of music getting back to the recorded product that the artists are putting out. I hope so, because
I think it's possible. It's just going to be more visual because everybody's on the screens. Right. Yeah.
That's where the video, the YouTube aspect comes to play. And kind of what I was thinking when I decided to go this route. I think it's important to connect with your audience via the music and also the visual aspect, so they can get to know you better, those fans who don't know you yet. I'm hoping that that's the way we get through this pandemic. And then when the floodgates open, like we talked about, then they're going to be really dying to come see the artists that they've only known via Spotify and video and all that. There's this pent up demand that's hopeful of, and I could see it happening. I mean, I can visualize it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hopeful for the future, that the recordings and things that people are continuing to invest in to put in front of their fans will pay off by creating the demand, creating the YouTube traffic, creating the demand for the product. And then when the time comes and the artist can tour, then it'll manifest in better attendance, because people will go, man, I got to go to concerts again. I get to do it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
For sure. Anyway. Well, this has been great. I'm really glad we had a good hour and whatever. I mean, this is really a treat for me to be able to sit down, because you're hanging out backstage, eating Bojangles. It's one thing with everybody hanging out, but to really have the one-on-one is really cool. Yeah. Really cool.
You get a few comments, and then you're off to preparing for your show or whatever. Right. Yeah, you get a chance to do that. It is great.
I've got one last little bit here. I call it the shootout. I'll say a word that's industry related to the guest, and then you just fire a word.
There's a quiz.
It's everybody who always says that does very well. They think they have to overperform, and it's not the case. Guitar.
My soul.
See, that's what I'm saying. Everybody's that goes crazy over this, they do very well. They have very profound statements. Bass.
Essential.
Yeah.
Essential to any band. Drum is a foundation. They're the foundation.
Piano, keys.
The spice.
Good one. Vocal.
I was going to say something terrible. I can't believe that came to mind. The icing on top.
Yeah. I
was going to say side note, but that would have been very nice.
No, look, there's no right or wrong answers. Whatever works.
I don't know. I got pretty close to the wrong answer on that one, I think.
Live.
Oh. Thrill.
Yeah. Studio.
Pressure.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Because you always feel like you got to get it right. You got to get the perfect performance every time. So
right.
A lot of people, when the red light's on, there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. I guess for me, it's somewhat the opposite, because I've been To me, it's like monkey hour because I do pretty much everything myself. So it's like,
Well, there's no meter running when you're doing it that way.
right,
That's
right.
yes, exactly
Yeah.
right.
The meter was on the credit card when I paid it off, so it
That's
did
right.
exist, but now it's
Oh,
jazz.
I'm sorry. Say again.
Jazz.
Jazz. Oh man. Um. Uh. That's a hard one.
Really?
Yeah, because there's just so much. There's just so much. It's I can't say it in a word, but let me give you this analogy.
Sure.
To me, rock is like that box of 8 crayons. Jazz is like a box of 64.
There you go. Or 6,400.
There's just so many more colors. There's just
Yeah.
so many more.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. Well, rock is next, so I guess you could say the 8 crayon
Rock
box.
is emotion. Rock is emotion.
But
it's raw. Right. It can be raw emotion, which is pretty can be simple.
Yeah.
Not always, but in a word, simple. It's simple emotion.
Yeah. Blues.
Smoky room. That's what it makes me think of.
And last one, but most important, pizza.
Pizza. Oh man. I don't know. First thing I thought was backstage meal.
Yeah. Why not?
That's right. That's right. I've done a couple of theater shows, and it seems like that's the bill of fare. You know, you go back and you think, wow, you know, you don't think about the food, but like this most recent one that I did at the Clayton Center with the other guys in a different group called VCT Radio. We're doing an instrumental thing. Well, they put out a spread, and you know, a lot of the food was the simple, you know, just walk by and grab it and move on. You don't have time. So that's what pizza is, you know. Grab a slice and move on.
Make it happen. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, one last question for you, which I ask everybody at the end. If you could go back in time to your 15-year-old self, what would you tell him, knowing what you know now?
I'm sorry. Say that again. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, if you could go back in time to your 15-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him?
I would say, it sounds cliche and it's corny, but I would say when you find what it is that you want to do, you have to pursue it. You know, don't be true to your heart. Be true to what your soul desires. You know, you could spend. All right, side story, if I may.
Do it.
So I'm an engineer. I went to Georgia Tech, got my electrical engineering degree, and I work in manufacturing, engineering, and all that. And so I do a lot of travel. That's part of the reason why I'm in this hotel room. And I go to factories and things like that where they're manufacturing, and I see a lot of people who are not doing what their soul wants them to do, what their desire is. They have settled for, I have to, you know, turn the crank to make the money, to put the food on the table so that I can turn the crank, so that I can, you know, lather, rinse, repeat. And that just sucks your soul out. So I would say to my 15-year-old self I would basically say, do what it is I'm doing, which is do what inspires you. Life is short. You know, do what inspires you. Find what it is and do it.
Beautiful.
That's really it.
Any last words?
And I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. I've been very fortunate. You know, a lot of people like I said earlier, a lot of people spend their whole life looking for that, and they don't find it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, because either they don't get the opportunity to try to play violin because their parents couldn't afford music lessons, or whatever it is. You know, when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a tennis professional. Well, I didn't have the opportunity to do that, and to the level, had the equipment and the support and the practice and all that stuff. I didn't get a chance to do that. Turns out that was not what spoke to my soul, but but I didn't have a chance to do that. If that's what speaks to your soul, then you got to pursue it. You have to. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Any last words beyond that?
Well, the last words I would say is to the people who have sat through this and enjoyed it as much as I have, or even a fraction as much as I have. Thanks for sitting through it. I hope to see all of you out there. I'm trying to bring you music, as Jason and many, many, many other artists are trying to do in this time when we can't be live with you. But, you know, we need your support, both financially, but also just encouragement. You know, click on the link to listen to our music, buy our music if you can, play it through Spotify, write us an encouraging note on our Facebook page, visit, you know, tell someone else about it. You know, all the artists that you guys love, if it's us, Jason or I, or whoever, you know, support them. And that will really help music to just really come back strong when we can. Because right now, as Jason said earlier, as you said earlier, some people are throwing in the towel. They are. And some of those people might be musicians that you love. So they need your support in all the ways. You know, most of us are creative because most musicians are sensitive people. They're creative, and so they give outward from their soul of what's in their heart, what's in their soul, what they hear, what they're creating, and they need encouragement. They just do. And those little responses and encouragements of playing your songs or buying your songs or merchandise, whatever, those are all little things that help that musician to stay the course. So support us, all of us.
Yeah.
The ones you like.
Yeah. Well, this has been amazing. Your information, if you could just say it audibly real quick, if anybody's driving out there and not able to look.
www.willmcbridegroup, all one word, .com. And you can find out all the information about the band. You can see our latest videos, which is what I'm trying to promote now. The record that comes out on the 20th of February, None the Worse for Wear, is right on the front page. That's really the best place to find all about us, is on that website. All the ancillary places on YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff, you can reach those through our website. So really, that's the one-stop shop. You can buy our music there. You can, you know, learn about our bio, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome. And that will all be provided down below or to the sides, depending on the platform that the folks are listening or watching on. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on.
It's been great, man. It was more fun than I thought it was going to be, and I thought it was going to be pretty fun.
Well, you guys have been watching and listening to the Jason Damico Show with our special guest, Will McBride of the Will McBride Group. Definitely check them out if you haven't heard of them already. And if you have heard of them, you have truly been blessed. And we will see
Jason, let's do a show together. when this all goes, let's do a show together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's get that happening.
Okay.
We will see you guys on the next one. Peace.